We're a part of one of the most important journeys of somebody's life, and the fact that we can accompany them on their way is incredible. What's really popular for us on TikTok is we do lives every once in a while. One of our doctors will just log on in the evening and just answer questions live, and then come on the next time, the next week. And those get great engagement, and people are they're so excited to be able to ask questions to a qualified medical professional, because we have an access to care problem in our countries, and it's not so easy for people to just make an appointment with their doctor and ask these questions.
Welcome to the DTC Insider podcast, where online business owners come to find actionable tips and tactics to grow their businesses. Now, here's your host, Brian Roisentul.
Hey, welcome to another episode. As always, I'm Brian Roisentul, your host, and today I'm super excited to interview Samantha Diamond, co-founder and CEO of Fertility. Hey, Samantha. Thanks for the show.
Me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm super excited about this conversation because I think it's very different from many other conversations we have had in the five seasons of the DTC Insider podcast. So why don't you start by telling the audience more about you and Fertility?
For sure. Well, I'm Sam. My friends call me Sam, so you get to call me Sam today too.
Amazing.
I'm a mom of 3, and that's kind of the reason this all happened, and a big part of how we got here today. I started my career in PR and marketing, and I worked in the beauty industry. I founded my own company after working for a few years and ran it for 10 years. And I worked almost entirely in CPG. And that was the focus of my agency. And we worked with some of the biggest beauty brands in the world, including the #1 beauty brand in the entire world. And it was a lot of fun. And as I was building that business, I was growing my family at the same time. It was busy.
I can imagine 3. Yeah. So I have 2, but twins, a boy and a girl. That's tough too. But 3, you don't even have enough hands for them.
No, but twins is its own challenge. So congratulations on getting through that.
Through the pandemic.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. That was a tough time to have kids at home. I remember homeschooling, so I feel you. And as I was growing my family and the business, I also experienced fertility challenges. And it was through that experience that I recognized how poor the customer experience was in the industry, because I was living in this world of CPG beauty and seeing how great of a customer experience people could have, and kind of wondered why it didn't apply to the fertility space when we know so many people are going through that type of a challenge.
So you're saying that there wasn't enough information, or there weren't solutions that people could use at home?
So the problem was kind of twofold. One was there's a lack of general education. So we think about that high school health class in Canada. Here we have it in grade 10. It's during gym. I think it lasts for 2 days, and you're taught about reproductive health, and you're told kind of, if you have sex, you're going to get pregnant, so don't do that, and make sure you use protection. And then nobody talks about reproductive health or fertility really until you start trying to conceive. And then if you're struggling, it's at that point you find yourself in the bottom of the internet trying to figure out what to do, what more you can do to support your fertility, who you need to speak with, what kind of testing you need to do, what are the changes you need to make to your lifestyle. But we're never getting anything proactive. And it's a long time where there's absolute silence or white space. Really think about the average age of mothers at first birth right now. US and Canada, it's in metropolitan cities is around 31. In Canada, it's a little bit older. I think it's 32. So you're talking about 15-year-old until you're 30, and you're not having any real discussion about being proactive about your fertility health. That was one piece that really needed to be combated, was this white space in public health education, and also helping people to avoid the I wish I had been told sooner, or I wish I knew this earlier. When they do get to the doctor, they're like, why didn't anyone tell me this? Why didn't I know? And so there was a big piece of that we wanted to combat. And then the actual products that were available in the consumer space on the fertility side, because you've got the clinic and then you've got what can happen, what you need at home and what's required. You've got at-home tests, you've got vitamins, you've got other products. The products available were clunky. They were, had packaging from the 80s. Everything was like a pink box with a baby on the front. And
Right.
it needed an overhaul. It needed a better consumer experience. It needed to be more streamlined. And also, from a marketing perspective, sometimes you can make things in packages like that are quite triggering to somebody who might be going through a miscarriage. And then they're going to pick up their tests or their vitamins, and all they see are these like chubby little babies on the front of bottles, or pregnant women on the front of bottles. And it's just not necessary. There's other ways that you can market a product and also be super respectful of the people who are going through a journey. And so that's where we started.
So did you start with the information part first, or with the product, or both?
We kind of started with both, but when our first exposure to the market as we were building the product was through education and information. So we launched kind of a very beta version of our website, and we launched our social media accounts. And we still, to this day, we only put out information that's provided by doctors, very specifically doctors in the fertility industry. So the people whose job it is to get you pregnant, those are the people who are informing our content and who are approving the content or who are making the content.
Yeah.
And so we really started by building our social channels and by building kind of an audience through our website and our blog, where we were explaining some of the things that were perhaps unclear or misunderstood, or we really felt, again, that would contribute to this like public health education of being proactive about your fertility.
Which year are we talking about?
We're talking about 2021. So we're like mid-pandemic, working from home with all the kids, and really building something that can help support other families achieve what I ended up being able to achieve.
So what was people's reaction, when you started posting about this? Because I guess that one, again, you said that the first thing people did when they wanted to look for options, moving forward to have a baby, they searched online. So probably there was a lot of misinformation. So you took care of that by trying to have, content done by or curated by professionals. But that's what you knew back then that you were doing. But how did people take it? Because I think it's a kind of a sensitive topic to talk on social, right?
We've always been really, really sensitive about how we communicate. So something as basic as a post around Mother's Day. We know that this holiday is really, really hard for people who are struggling to conceive or who have suffered a loss. And it's a sensitive holiday for a lot of people outside of the fertility community. So those are examples of the kinds of opportunities we take to share how sensitive this is and how much we understand. So we don't do, for example, sales around Mother's Day. Like we won't ever send an email like a Mother's Day sale. We will post resources for grief counseling. We will post, on social media, we'll do posts that acknowledge how difficult these days are. And one of our first viral posts ever was actually a Mother's Day post that acknowledged that even if you have had a loss or are going through the process of fertility treatment or are in the process of trying to conceive, you're a mother in your heart. And that resonated so deeply with people because I think as a company too, I believe you become a mother or you become a father when you start like thinking about it and actually trying. I don't necessarily know that it's only when the baby is born that's what you become. I think you become it before. And I think acknowledging that really, really resonated with our community. And it helped us build this community that really appreciates the treatment of some of these more difficult topics.
Yeah, and sometimes you you guys are the only people they have, because believe it or not, I have like one of my closest friends went through a miscarriage, and it was complicated. They need to do surgery, and we only learned, it's again one of my closest friends, and we all of us learned about it like when they were pregnant, like a year later. So they went through it alone, right? So like only I think their parents knew about it, right? Not even their closest friends. So
Wow.
having an authority on the topic to be there for them, to educate them, that's great. But to be there for them as well and support them through that tough time, it's important, I think.
Totally. And I think, again, there's a lot, as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of misinformation out there because anybody can be a creator and anybody can build an audience. And a lot of the time, people are sharing their own personal experiences. And what we don't want is for people who are trying or struggling to conceive or who are pregnant or postpartum to take the advice of somebody who isn't qualified to give it based on what worked for them. And it's a common problem in the fertility space because when you look at the internet and you look at what worked for this person or what this random article or Reddit thread is saying, there's a lot of people who will list out 10 supplements they took that worked for them. What they don't know is that if this person is taking fertility medication that was prescribed by their clinic, they're not an authority on what supplement is going to interact with the medication. They can't possibly know. And that's something that needs to be taken into consideration because it can impact the efficacy of the medication. And we don't want somebody paying $20,000 for an IVF cycle only to find out later that they took a supplement that reduced the impact of their medication and therefore they got less eggs retrieved and they had a less successful cycle than they would have otherwise if they had, taken different advice from a professional. So it's very important for us when we're giving information out, that it's coming from the mouths of the people who are qualified to deliver it. And our best performing content is always our doctors. The doctors on our team answering questions on TikTok and Instagram, always the best performing content because people are starved for this information and they want it from the source.
Right. So TikTok too, right? I know you have a following there bigger than on Instagram, right? So for people saying that TikTok is for teenagers, well, not anymore, right?
Definitely not. I think we have about 50,000 followers on TikTok. And what's really popular for us on TikTok is we do lives every once in a while. One of our doctors will just log on in the evening and just answer questions live. And they'll be on for 20, 30 minutes and answer as many questions as they can. And then come on the next week. And those get great engagement. And people are they're so excited to be able to ask questions to a qualified medical professional because we have an access to care problem in our countries. And it's not so easy for people to just make an appointment with their doctor and ask these questions.
Or cheap sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Or accessible, right? So this is, I love that. I didn't know that. I love it because it's a perfect example of what brands should be doing, not specifically lives, but building a moat. And a moat could be different things, but one of them is these days, the entry barrier or the, let's say, survival barrier, to call it some way, it's higher than ever. And brands to survive, of course, they need to have a great product that I think is mandatory for today's era of, e-commerce or commerce. But having a strong brand, but even more, right? An ecosystem, it could be a community, it could be a Slack, it could be school, it could be on Facebook, it could be whatever. Caring about your customers, what we call going beyond the storefront, going beyond your website and trying to solve actual problems, real problems your customers have. So this that you're doing is amazing, and I think is one of the key successes to your growth. But you tell me, what do you think about this?
I think our position as product that is recommended by fertility doctors is extremely important to our success. We are sold in fertility clinics as well as online. So our primary sales channel is online through our website, through DTC, but we have a sales channel through fertility clinics. And in addition to being sold in fertility clinics and other integrative care fertility practices, we're also recommended by doctors. So not all clinics are set up with dispensaries to sell a product. Some of them are just recommending the products that they know are the best fit for their patients. And because we have screened our products and they were developed, again, by fertility doctors and fertility naturopaths to make sure there's no medication interaction with our supplements or their properties, fertility doctors know that they can trust the product. The second piece of that is we've actually done studies. We did a clinical study last year that was presented at a fertility conference and published in a fertility journal where we actually proved out the results. So it's a little bit different than brands who will formulate a product based on the studies that are related to each of the individual ingredients. So of course, we've done that too. That's how we kind of came up. Our doctors, through their own clinical practice and through their own academic research, did the work to make sure everything that goes in there has great clinical research behind it. We've now taken it to the next level where we've studied the final product in a clinical setting. And again, this is different. Other brands are doing customer surveys where they're saying, after 3 weeks, your hair was 8% shinier or you felt 10% better. We did a clinical study with a fertility clinic on real patients where they identified male factor patients who suffered from poor sperm quality. They were tested in the lab at the clinic. They then took our prenatal for males, our Power Pack for males, and then they were re-measured again, did a semen analysis at the same clinic, at the same lab 3 months later. And we saw a 52% increase in their progressive sperm motility. So that's the way sperm move forward. One of the most important sperm parameters that you need in order to actually get pregnant. And it has to get to the egg, and it's a reflection of the overall health of the sperm. We saw a positive trend in total motility and morphology. And so we were then able, this was a good quality study that, again, was presented in front of the fertility medical community at a fertility conference, published in a fertility journal. And so now we have actual data to prove that this product can support positive outcomes and does have a clinical impact. We're in the process of 2 more studies right now. These studies are IRB approved, which means they are official studies. They are officially approved by an international review board, and they are different than just a customer satisfaction survey. And that's why we're in fertility clinics.
Speaking about modes, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Great. So you said that you come from the CPG world. And of course, there are many exceptions, but it's typically more of an impulse buy, even more compared to, these. So how do you approach marketing?
It's a great question. It's a great question because we kind of straddle the world of science and CPG.
Right.
So our product is not an impulse buy.
Exactly.
Our product is a researched product. We know that people are seeing our product, our company, they are on our website many times before they're making a purchase, because the way that people find out and the way that they're learning is they're reading. Like they're of course they're reading reviews, and perhaps they're asking their doctors as well, because we can see in our post-purchase survey there's a pretty significant % of people that found us through their clinic or practitioner. But we have a very, very significant amount of traffic coming in direct to our website and coming through organic search. So the information that we are putting together on our blog, that's again reviewed by or written by doctors, we are answering people's questions about fertility, about reproductive health, about pregnancy. We are providing them, again, with scientific answers. And then we've created a product, a few different products that kind of solve for certain parts of the journey. And obviously the point is to optimize their outcomes. We want to help people have access to care earlier through at-home testing. And we want to help them optimize their chances of success with fertility and have a super healthy pregnancy and postpartum experience.
Do you know how long the consideration time is, from awareness to conversion, more or less?
I don't know how long the amount of time is. I know that there's a variety of touch points. And again, depending on where they're coming from or who they talk to first, it could be longer, it could be shorter. If a practitioner is telling their patients that this is one of the products that I recommend, or this study was done. It's definitely amongst my top recommendations. We know that time frame is quite short. And again, obviously, if they're in clinic and their clinic has a dispensary that sells the product, they can get it straight away from them.
Because I was trying to know, because again, when you sell an impulse product, you probably go to the point and you market the product and you sell, to be simplistic, But here, probably, again, it requires, awareness content, educational content, and then, of course, people who already are going to buy. So I was wondering if you did something different compared to when you were working with CPG brands, in terms of, besides the organic content that you put on the blog, on social, do you have a specific, customer acquisition strategy that takes place different than what you do when you were working with CPG brands?
Well, I think there's an element of CPG brands that's very visual. So you can be selling a lipstick or you can be selling a hair product, and it's easy to work with a creator who's putting it on and you can see how the product looks. Ours is a little different because it's on the supplement side, it's really about how the product works and how the product makes you feel. And that's tougher to show visually.
Right.
One of the great other kind of more visual elements of the product is the ease and accessibility of it. And so we often try to show you could be taking 8 bottles of supplements to get what's in here. It will cost you double the price. It uses 8 times the amount of plastic that we use. And you can't take it with you or you're sorting through pills. This is like pop it in your purse and take it with you. When I'm traveling, I have a little zipper bag and I take my 7 packets if I'm going to be gone for a week. That's it. So the ease and accessibility of it is the visual piece, but really it's about having people talk about how the product worked for them. And of course, having the doctors, we have a lot of doctors that we work with on social media to share education for the doctors to talk about, from an ingredient perspective, why you would want to take CoQ10 for fertility. What's the research behind it? Why you might consider adding DHA into your mix, and why that's something that's very important for healthy pregnancy. And so we can share information that way.
What about engagement? Do you see that engagement is lower than in the, let's say, CPG industry because people don't want to react to something because it's more sensitive? Or do you find that that's no longer the case?
We have also a very specific community that's following us. So we don't have a bunch of teenagers, coming onto our platforms, sitting and watching our videos and our makeup tutorials. So that part's a little bit different, but we do have a very engaged audience from a fertility and reproductive health perspective, because again, we're providing them with science. So our posts that do the best, that have the most engagement, the most views, and the most virality are the doctors. It's always the doctors.
I think that every founder values a good review and negative reviews too, but everyone, is I think happy to read a good review that people love what they do. But in this case, I think there's something special because the story is quite different. The outcome of using your product is different than a lipstick. So can you share, if you want, any impactful stories that you remember or feedback from users that were influenced by your products?
The reviews and the customer care channel that we get emails into are why I'm still doing this job, because being a founder is not easy. Building a company is not easy. This is my North Star, and this is why I wake up every day and do it, because when I see the success stories from people who have been trying or struggling to conceive, or who were nauseous in their pregnancy and then found our product to at least be able to take the nutrients that they need without throwing up. Or we hear from customers who are postpartum that say, this is my second child and I never took anything with my first, and my second time around, I have never felt more supported, with more energy, and my hair didn't fall out as much the second time as it did with the first, or I feel overall less fatigued. My iron levels are measuring what they're supposed to be now. I can't think of anything more rewarding than knowing that I was able to be a part of somebody's journey and to make it better for them than the journey that I had myself. Like this is the entire point. I get personal emails. I don't know how anybody finds my email, but I get personal emails from random people who write me like a 500-word essay on how Bird and Bee helped to support their journey, how they had PCOS and haven't had a regular cycle in 2 years, started our inositol PCOS product, and within 60 days they're having a regular menstrual cycle and they're able to actually start trying to conceive at home because they got their period back. Like, I can't think of anything more rewarding than supporting the people who I truly know what they're going through. I know how hard it is. I know how devastating it is. I know all of those deep, often negative emotions that you're experiencing, and to know that we're a part of supporting them along the way is it's really unbelievable.
What do you think when you, like, if you think about it, like you are responsible for many babies to come to life?
Kind of. I think we're a part of it. We're not a magic solution either.
No,
It's not a,
but you influenced that. You influenced.
but we're a part of it. We're a part of one of the most important journeys of somebody's life, and the fact that we can accompany them on their way is incredible. From the perspective of what we do on the at-home testing front, I sometimes think that that's, I wouldn't say even more important, but it can have even more impact because we're actually able to help people screen for red flags or screen for outlier cases at home. And if they weren't doing this, if they weren't taking an at-home sperm test and they were trying at home for 2 years, going to the doctor only to find out the male partner has poor sperm quality, that couple just wasted 2 years. If the female partner is into her late 30s, those 2 years are really impactful in terms of the results, the time it's going to take to get pregnant, the expense. We want people to see their doctors sooner. And so if we've created 3 different tests where you can do these inexpensive at home, and you can find out very, very early on in the journey if you're going to need to go straight to that doctor, even before, spending the time trying at home. We can be a part of that better access to care. It's extremely rewarding.
I know you have a variety of products on your website, and sometimes people don't know where to start. I saw you have a quiz.
Yes.
Do you use that? Does it work? Because I have, worked with many brands, with not many, but with some brands using a quiz on their home. And for some of them, the quiz was responsible for over 80% of purchases. That was big because it was so complex for them otherwise. So the quiz was a big help for people to find what they were looking for. So how does that work in this case?
So it's definitely helpful for customers who don't know what they need, don't know what stage they're in, where to start, want some direction. It's also helpful for us on our end to know what stage most of our customers are in, so that when we look at future product development, when we look at the content that we're putting out, we know where to kind of service, and we know what people need or want the most of.
And talking about retention, we discussed a little bit about acquisition, but how does it work? Because I'm 100% ignorant on this topic, right? And I was going through your website and I saw that there were multiple products and a subscription, I believe. So it's not a one-time thing. It's something that people need to, depending on their case, need to take, repeatedly, right? So how do you, leverage, email marketing or anything else that you do to keep people engaged and, informed, educated, etc.?
Yeah. So we do a lot through email marketing, and we make sure that we're really communicating with our existing customers so that they know when they get to that next phase, there's a product waiting for them to swap over to. So once you are through the fertility process, there's a pregnancy product. If you're in pregnancy and you're feeling really sick in your first trimester, sometimes unfortunately for longer, there's a product specifically for that. If you are postpartum and you're having trouble with milk supply, there is a product for lactation support. And so we use email marketing to also help people understand that they can continue through the phases and stages, and we've kind of got something for them at every phase. we also have to work really hard at explaining the science to our customers and helping them understand that, for example, our fertility focused products, they aren't an overnight thing based on the way our biology works. It takes 3 months to impact the health of sperm and 3 months to impact the health of eggs because of the cycle of the follicular cycle and the spermatogenesis cycle. It takes a certain amount of time. It also takes time for your body to build up nutrient stores ahead of pregnancy. And so it is definitely an exercise in education. And we sometimes do that, or we've been working at doing that a little bit better on our actual boxes through inserts in our deliveries, through email, through social media, but really, really trying to drive home that this is a product that you are supposed to be taking for a few months before you should expect to see any results.
Okay. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would like to share with the audience?
That's a good question. Well, maybe I'll share what I'm most excited for this year.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things, but product development is the most exciting part of the business for me because I get to work with the doctors and the scientists and kind of tell them what our customers are asking for, look at the trends in the industry, and they bring the latest science to the table. And then we work together to develop what we think will service our customers in a complementary way or the next phase of their life cycle. So we have 3 or 4 products that are coming down the pipeline right now. And the one that I'm most excited about is a product that is a powder form. And it's currently a product that I am taking from 3 different other brands. We don't make any of the product yet, but we're in the process of making it. I take it in 3 separate things. And we are putting it all together to make it, again, easy and accessible. And what I love about it best is that it's a product for fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, beyond, perimenopause, menopause, and for men.
Okay.
It's a product that is an everybody product. A lot of people are already taking these things in a bunch of different places. We're going to make it easy. We're going to make it less expensive. And it's going to be taste free. So you can put it in your morning coffee or tea. Can take it with your smoothie later. I'm very excited.
That's amazing. And it's something that many companies forget, that one of the keys to growing a company is to develop more products as well, to give people more options, to listen to what they want and develop that. It's not always easy, of course, as you might know, but to make the best to do that and to keep developing products, to keep them engaged and to add more solutions to the mix right now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Amazing. So before you go, I think this was a very interesting conversation. I took a lot of notes and golden nuggets that I will share when this is released, of course. And before you go, I wanted to ask you something that I like asking guests here on the podcast before they leave. It's something that started as a selfish question because I wanted to stop reading the same things or about the same things over and over. So I wanted to get recommendations from amazing founders such as yourself. And then, of course, we started putting together a list of books mentioned here in the podcast every year. So I wanted to ask you, do you have any book that you can think of to recommend to the audience?
One of my favorite books of all time is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
I love it.
One of the best books. And I listen to it on audiobook, so he gets to read it himself. And I always love when authors read their own work because I think it just adds a little bit more character to what I'm listening to, and it's told in the way it's intended. So
it's an amazing recommendation. I love the book. For everyone who's not familiar with it, it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's the guy was a former FBI lead negotiator.
Yes.
And he's been through, terrorist situations, hostage, and etc. And he somehow managed to connect that to business. And of course, it's history and of course, business, and leading with a no instead of yes, and trying to demystify that, one of those sales lessons that say that you need to, get as many yes from people as you can. The guy says quite the opposite. He's like, Litwood, no. And he explains why, and it's an amazing book.
It's
I
great.
love it.
I've listened to it 3 times, and I go back to it often because it takes time to absorb his lessons.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a good one.
It's an amazing one. Thank you for recommending that and for being here, of course. But before you go, please tell the audience where they can go to learn more about you and your company.
You can visit birdandbee.com, and that's where you can find all of our products. You can visit us on social media, Bird and Bee on TikTok, Bird Bee Co. on Instagram. We're updating that every single day with lots of scientific information. And I hope that everybody who is listening is taking care of their own health, and that includes your reproductive health, but also your general health. So making sure you're moving every day, eating a clean, healthy diet, and getting sleep.
Yeah, thank you. And as always for you, if you're listening to this or watching this, why not? If you're not on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up. And if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other podcasting platform, leave us a review. We put a lot of effort in doing this. And if you want to find out more about, Samantha or Sam and Bird and Bee, please go to the show notes at the DTCinsider.com. And once you find the episode, you will read all the show notes, including the book she mentioned, Never Split the Difference. Sam, it was a true pleasure to have you here on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
This episode was brought to you by BSR Digital. We help DTC brands grow through paid ads and email marketing campaigns. If you'd like us to help your business grow, head on over to bsrdigital.com and schedule a call with us.